Hello, everyone. Welcome to Steven Shinder Reviews in video form, starting off the month of October, which I am calling Chucktober for this review series. That's right, I'm doing a 31-day review series of the Chucky franchise or the Child's Play franchise, whatever you want to call it. So, Chucktober, hashtag renew Chucky, hashtag review Chucky. So this is day one, Child's Play 1988. And I want to mention that, using the hashtag renew Chucky, obviously Chucky fans have been wanting the TV show to get renewed, and there's a recent announcement of its cancellation, which is pretty much the impetus for this video series. And when I realized there are 7 movies, 24 episodes, adds up to 31. And yeah, 7 movies. So yeah. um, I think you all get it. So, but renewed Chucky, I feel like the window, if we're thinking realistically, the window has passed probably for the show to get renewed where it was airing. There have been rumblings that maybe it could move to a different network, perhaps. So when I say renewed Chucky, I'm kind of saying it in a with a flexible definition. Renew the show if possible, however possible, or renew the storyline, have it continue in a film, or renew the general interest in the Chucky franchise so that the story continues in some form. But yeah, the cancellation announcement just sort of awakened this idea in me of doing a daily review series for all 31 days in this month of October. So I think this will be fun. I'll try to make sure I keep up to this daily routine. But yeah, starting with Child's Play, released in November 9th, 1988, directed by Tom Holland. And yeah, I know it's not that Tom Holland. Um, and the story by Don Mancini. And the screenplay apparently was by both of them plus John Lafia. And this was an MGM film. Well, production company was United Artists, and I think that's related to MGM. Yeah, it's owned by MGM. So this is pretty different from the rest of the Chucky films. I guess the franchise in general, you could say. Obviously, the rest are from Universal, but this one, just the way that it's filmed, it looks and feels more like a film. Like it feels more real. Um, it feels more like an actual movie. I don't really know how to properly convey slash articulate this, but yeah, just the locations and how it's all shot. This film takes place in Chicago. That's where the characters are, where they live, um, the place they inhabit, you might say. I don't know why I'm putting all these synonyms. But yeah, there's just something that feels different about this first one, especially with the maybe even the genre and the tone. Parts of it feel a bit more like a crime movie or a detective movie, and the original title is also kind of strange to me, given that later on we get the of Chucky naming scheme, which part of me kind of wishes that they had begun with that naming scheme. You could call the first one Crimes of Chucky, maybe the second one Blade of Chucky, and the third one Blood of Chucky, and then you get to Bride and the rest and whatnot. But I digress. Something that's kind of odd to me is the idea that people may have thought that Andy Barclay, the 6-year old kid in this film played by Alex Vincent. The idea that maybe he's the one doing all the murders in this film and maybe it's not this Chucky doll. And I know because of cultural osmosis, we all know that Chucky is the one who does all the murders here. But even setting the franchise aside, like if you were to go into this film with no knowledge of any of it, I find it hard to believe that one would think that it's anyone other than Chucky. Even watching the trailer, it kind of really suggests that it's Chucky. And then just the opening scene alone, you get Detective Mike Norris chasing killer Charles Lee Ray into the toy store in the early hours of the day. And you get all this, after Charles is shot by Mike, he he gets a doll and says a spell, and then you see like a bunch of clouds and lightning above the toy store, and it strikes the building, and everything explodes. And it's like, how would anyone think there's not something supernatural going on here? Like I don't understand the idea that one could think that it's anyone other than Charles Lee Ray as the doll who does the kills in this movie. But then we're introduced to the Barclays. So Andy is it's his sixth birthday, and he is making breakfast for his mom. Like you would think it's the other way around. So it's kind of sweet that he's doing this nice thing, but I mean, is it just a sweet thing, or is he just trying to convince her that, he's being nice and so he wants to open up his toys sooner? You could read it a couple different ways, I guess, but just how the breakfast looks, like the colorful cereal and then the burnt waffles with just a wad of butter on top. It's just so ridiculous. But yeah, and you also see how big a fan he is of the good guy dolls. We'd seen them in the toy store and the packaging. The packaging for these things looks really nice and very, like, I don't know, it just is very eye popping. I guess you could say, just the color design. It feels like actual toy color marketing coordination, if that's even the term for it. But yeah, Andy is dressed like one of the good guys, and he's excited about the new doll that he sees a commercial about. And his mother, Karen, gives him his present. One of them has a good guy tool set, but he really wants a doll, and she feels bad about not getting it for him. Like she hadn't found out about it in time to save up for it. But then at work, her friend Maggie gets her to this peddler who's selling a good guy doll in the alley, and yeah, she just gets the doll and gives it to Andy, and it seems innocent enough. What's different about this film is, for a while, Chucky doesn't really talk for, like, as the doll for half the movie, outside of just a few of the catchphrases that the toy says. Um, but then, once Andy has to be babysat by Maggie, we get this whole thing where, we get the camera angles. Early on, when we're introduced to Andy, we actually get a camera angle of him walking, like we see his shoes as he's bringing the breakfast to his mom. And I think maybe that shot was in there to, whenever we see Chucky's shoes moving, from a similar angle, like maybe the audience would think that it could be Andy. But again, I really don't see how anyone could be convinced that it is Andy. But yeah, Maggie gets pushed through the window, and uh, later on, the law enforcement arrives, and they look at the flower, these footprints that are not the same size as Andy's shoes, and then the next day, Andy is heading to school, but the doll convinces him to take the train or subway or whatever um, to Eddie Caputo's house or wherever Eddie Caputo is hiding out. This was Chucky's accomplice who drove off without him before he got shot up in the toy store. And yeah, so Andy leaves the doll on a chair and goes off for a little bit, and then it cuts back to the chair and the doll is gone. So again, I don't see how anyone could think it's not the doll, but yeah, Chucky manages to blow up the house, get revenge on Eddie Caputo for abandoning him. And, Andy is being questioned, and his mother really wants to believe that the doll is alive. And when she checks the batteries, lo and behold, they're not in the doll. And Chucky comes alive with Brad Dourif's voice, and there's a little fight. And Karen, Chucky gets away. Karen tries to find answers from the peddler who tries to, he moves in, and like Detective Norris is able to stop the guy from the alley. Like it's a really strange um and dark moment, but yeah, like Detective Norris is very uh skeptical, but he helps Karen, and they learn a little bit about the toy, and they go investigate where apparently Charles Lee Ray had been staying, and there's a mural and everything. It's real weird. It's like I don't know if it's like a painting of Charles worshiping Damballa, the that whole thing. Um, but yeah, they try to learn more, and Chucky finds his teacher who taught him how to do these spells, these what they're referred to as like voodoo spells, I believe. And the teacher is really upset at Chucky for uh, using this power in a twisted way. And so, because he's not helping Chucky, Chucky uses a voodoo doll to hurt and basically, end him. But a bit of lore that we learn here, and the lore changes throughout the Chucky franchise, but the fact that Chucky the doll is bleeding, and it's because the longer he stays in this doll body, the more human he becomes. So he's trying to get a new body to possess, and so he figures his answer is Andy Barclay, because he's told it has to be the first person he revealed himself to. So he's going after Andy, and there's a moment where Andy is crying when Chucky is going after him, and it's so heartbreaking. It's this innocent kid, and he has to deal with all this stuff. His childhood is basically being ruined. It's maybe the saddest moment in the Chucky franchise. Well, I maybe I'll get reminded of something else that comes up later, but yeah, like Alex Vincent was very convincing here. But, this all escalates in a final confrontation at the Barclay apartment. Um, the Barclay home. There's a huge fight against Chucky. And, by this point, Detective Norris is convinced about the doll being alive because he tried to kill him in the car, tried to get revenge. Um, and the spectacle of the final confrontation, a lot of work went into this. You could tell, there's a lot of collaboration. um there's the fireplace and the burnt Chucky face, and he just keeps coming back, and eventually like he has to get shot in the heart. And Detective Norris's buddy, his police officer buddy, like also is his partner, I think it's his, something like that. He gets involved in the whole thing. But yeah, then there's just great dialogue, like when Chucky is in the fireplace and he's like, Andy, we're friends to the end. And then Andy's like, this is the end, friend. But of course, we know that this is not the end of Chucky. He's defeated for now, but you could maybe even see it in Andy's face when he looks back in that final freeze frame shot, like looking back at the remains of Chucky. Like, he's gonna come back even though it's a victory for now. And then we get the haunting music throughout the end credits. And this film is just so well put together. Um, it feels kind of different from the sequels, but it also lays the foundation for it all. A really solid introduction for one of the most iconic slasher villains. And later on in later installments we would get more backstory for what happens directly before Charles Lee Ray gets chased and shot. And some people think that it's like too many additions, but I think it still fits really well with what we see here. But I'll talk more about that at later points whenever relevant. And yeah, I know that there was the I wasn't even gonna mention this, but the 2019 film remake. I'm not gonna do a full video on that, but I feel like if that, the whole AI thing, I think it would have been better if it did not have the child's play elements in it. Like if it was just its own thing. Aubrey Plaza, she's great in various things, like including Legion, Agatha All Along, the new film My Old Ass, which is very good and touches on some queer topics. It's probably like high up there, like in rankings. But Aubrey Plaza, I remember when I saw the remake, I did not find her believable as the mom, really. Whereas here in the 1988 version, like everyone feels believable and it feels more real. Whereas when I watch a remake, I feel like I'm watching like an R-rated TV movie or something. I can't really explain it. Like an R-rated high budget TV movie. Yeah, I've only seen the remake once, but yeah, this was a really solid start, and I think I'd give it an 8.5 out of 10. It's really good, and yeah, I don't know what else there is to say. Just the overall look and how scary Chucky is and threatening and whatnot, and it's just so good. But yeah, that's my review of Child's Play. And that's day one of Chucktober. Hashtag renew Chucky. Hashtag review Chucky. And next time I'll be talking about Child's Play 2. So this is Steven Shinder Reviews in video form, and I'll see you all next time.